In 2008, a 19-year-old out of Kansas State was selected with the second overall pick in the NBA draft, a player who had just completed one of the most dominant freshman seasons in the history of college basketball, a player some genuinely believed could surpass the man taken one spot ahead of him. By the time his career was over, he had suited up for 7 NBA franchises, played professionally in China, been arrested multiple times, entered rehabilitation, lost his mother to cancer, and found himself breaking down on a podcast, telling the world he was exhausted from searching for people worth trusting. This is the story of how Michael Beasley went from one of the most gifted players of his generation to one of the sport's most haunting what-ifs. Michael Beasley was born in Cheverly, Maryland, a small town in Prince George's County just outside Washington, D.C. His mother, Fatima Smith, raised him and his 4 siblings largely by herself. As someone close to the family later described it, when you have a son who stands 6'9" and weighs 230 pounds by the 10th grade, a father figure becomes more than a nicety. It becomes a necessity. And the absence of that figure left a gap that basketball alone could never fully fill. The game found Beasley early. Growing up in the D.C. area, he played for the PG Jaguars, one of the most decorated AAU programs in the country at the time. Beasley won multiple national championships with that team, alongside a fellow blue-chip prospect named Kevin Durant. The two came up together, and their bond would become one of the more quietly significant relationships in basketball history. Beasley has spoken openly about how meeting Durant reshaped his entire approach to the game. Durant pulled him into the gym, introduced him to the discipline the sport demanded, and sharpened the competitive instincts that were already burning inside him. But even with that influence in his corner, Beasley's path was turbulent from the very beginning. He attended 6 different high schools. 6. He averaged 30 points per game his freshman year at National Christian Academy, followed by 28 points per game as a sophomore at Riverdale Baptist School in Maryland, then transferred to the legendary Oak Hill Academy for his junior year, where he averaged 20 points per game against some of the toughest competition in the country. At Oak Hill, the talent was impossible to miss. The behavior was something else entirely. His coach, Steve Smith, suspended him from the team as Beasley went through the school writing his name across multiple lockers, something Beasley later said he did simply because he thought it was entertaining. Smith gave his star player one final opportunity. To return to Oak Hill, Beasley needed to demonstrate flawless conduct for the remainder of the school year and earn back the trust of the administration. 2 days later, Beasley signed his name in black marker across the principal's truck.
"He would definitely test your patience," Smith would later say. "You look at him physically and you see a fully grown man, and you assume he is going to make sound decisions consistently, but a lot of times he just didn't." Despite everything, Beasley landed at Kansas State for a single season, and that one year was nothing short of historic. He averaged 26.2 points per game, 3rd highest in the entire nation, while leading the country with 12.4 rebounds per game, the most productive numbers any Big 12 player had ever posted in a single season. His 866 total points and 408 total rebounds ranked 3rd and 2nd respectively among all freshmen in NCAA history. He led the nation in double-doubles with 28, posted 3 40-point games, and recorded 22 games with at least 20 points and 10 rebounds. That double-double total shattered the previous freshman record held by Carmelo Anthony, who had put up 22 in his lone season at Syracuse. Beasley was named both Big 12 Player of the Year and Big 12 Freshman of the Year, following directly in the footsteps of Kevin Durant, who had claimed both awards the season before. He also walked away as MVP of the McDonald's All-American game, beating out a freshman class that included Derrick Rose, James Harden, O.J. Mayo, Kevin Love, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. He later said being ranked 6th by ESPN lit a fire under him that nobody in that gym could put out. And yet, even at the absolute height of his college dominance, the scouting reports were already telling anyone willing to read them exactly what was coming. According to his Draft Express player profile, the 6'10" forward's listed weaknesses included attitude, focus, and a collection of off-court red flags that scouts couldn't ignore no matter how spectacular the on-court production looked. On June 26, 2008, Michael Beasley was selected second overall in the NBA draft by the Miami Heat. Derrick Rose went first. Russell Westbrook went fourth. The players drafted around him, Rose, Westbrook, Kevin Love, Brook Lopez, would each go on to build long, distinguished NBA careers. Beasley was supposed to be standing right alongside them. He never got there. The trouble began before he played a single regular minute for Miami. Beasley apparently had no interest in waiting. At the NBA Rookie Transition Program, the league's very first official gathering for incoming players, he managed to run directly into the league's disciplinary process. According to CBS Sports reporter Zach Harper, Beasley was fined $50,000 after an incident in which he, Mario Chalmers, and Darrell Arthur violated program policy by having women in their hotel room. Staff were only alerted to the situation because a smoke alarm triggered around 2 in the morning, at which point hotel workers detected the indistinguishable smell of marijuana. When things started unraveling, Beasley quietly slipped out of the room and left Chalmers and Arthur to face the consequences alone. He was later compelled by Heat president Pat Riley to come forward and acknowledge his own involvement in the incident. The second overall pick in the draft, the man the franchise was counting on to help build its next chapter, had already put himself in a difficult position before training camp had even begun. Stepping into Miami at 19 years old was no ordinary rookie experience. This was the Heat organization at the height of the Dwayne Wade era, a franchise with championship expectations and a locker room culture that had no patience for immaturity. That environment demanded immediate professionalism and instant impact. Beasley was still figuring out who he was as a person.
Pat Riley, the most powerful voice in that building, tried to set him straight from the very beginning. Shortly after Beasley arrived in Miami, Riley sat him down and advised him to buy a modest 2-bedroom condo. Keep it simple, keep his circle small, and build a foundation before building a lifestyle. Beasley didn't listen. Years later, he reflected openly on that decision. If I could do it all over again, I would have listened to Pat Riley. He told me to get a condo, 2 bedrooms, one for my mom when she came to visit, and let everybody else figure it out. I went the complete opposite direction. My excuse to him was that I grew up in an apartment and needed space. What Beasley actually did was purchase a 6-bedroom house, bring in 3 dogs, and move 4 of his friends in alongside him. The financial reality hit fast. Beyond the cost of maintaining a large home, he was effectively funding the daily living expenses of an entire entourage. Riley noticed. Within 1 month of his NBA career beginning, the rookie was already sitting approximately $200,000 in debt. On the court, it wasn't a complete collapse. Beasley started consistently throughout his rookie season and performed well enough to earn a spot on the all-rookie first team, but the shadow of what he could have been hung over every positive moment. As his former coach David Fizdale later recalled, the year they were drafted, not to call out Bees, but one day we literally had to drag him out of bed in Las Vegas just to get him into the gym for a workout. Russell Westbrook had already been in that same gym for 2 hours, in a full sweat. That image became the defining picture of the Beasley story, a player with genuinely generational talent sitting alongside a visible, consistent resistance to the discipline that talent demanded. After the Heat were eliminated in the first round of the 2009 playoffs, reports emerged that Beasley and fellow rookie Mario Chalmers had each been fined multiple times across the season for violations of team rules and policy. Then, the summer of 2009 arrived, and with it came what many would later recognize as the first genuine alarm bell. On August 21, 2009, Beasley posted to Twitter, "Why do I feel like the whole world is against me? Back on my FTW, I can't win for losing."
A few hours later, a second post appeared. "Feeling like it's not worth living. I'm done." He deleted his account shortly after. Those words should have stopped everyone in their tracks. For most people following the story, they became just another strange headline in an already complicated saga. That same year, Beasley checked into a rehabilitation facility amid growing concerns about substance use. He later opened up about that period on the Aura platform, saying, "At the time, I didn't know I was sad. I was depressed. I was anxious, stressed out, confused. I couldn't make sense of any of those feelings. I was just angry all the time." Despite everything happening beneath the surface, Beasley managed to put together a full starting season in 2009 to 2010, averaging 14.8 points and 6.4 rebounds per game. But the Heat organization had other plans, considerably larger ones. On July 12, 2010, Beasley was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for 2 second-round draft picks, one in 2011 and one in 2014. The trade existed to clear salary cap space, allowing Miami to sign LeBron James and Chris Bosh while re-signing Dwayne Wade. The Heat moved their second overall pick, a player they had held for just 2 seasons, for a pair of second-round picks. Not first-round picks, second-round picks. That was the market's honest assessment of Michael Beasley at 21 years old.
Minnesota was supposed to represent a clean slate, a new environment, a fresh opportunity, a chance to rebuild his reputation away from the noise. Timberwolves president David Kahn was unusually candid when discussing his new acquisition. In a radio interview, he described Beasley plainly as a very young and immature kid who would smoke too much marijuana, adding that Beasley had assured him that was behind him and that he would extend trust for as long as that remained true. The talent, to his credit, was still impossible to dismiss. On November 10, 2010, Beasley erupted for a career-high 42 points, along with 9 rebounds, to lead Minnesota past the Sacramento Kings. He finished that season averaging 19.2 points per game, placing him inside the top 20 scorers in the entire league. 19 points a night, top 20 in the NBA. The ability was never the question. But the off-court storms kept rolling in. In 2011, he was stopped during a routine traffic check, and police found 16.2 grams of marijuana beneath the front passenger seat of his vehicle. Around that same period, he also drew serious attention after shoving a spectator in the face during an exhibition game at Dyckman Park in New York, a fan who had been heckling him consistently throughout the game. Then came Phoenix. On July 20, 2012, Beasley signed a 3-year, $18 million contract with the Phoenix Suns. That was real money. That was the league extending a hand and saying in no uncertain terms that it still believed in what he could do, even if it couldn't fully trust the person doing it. At his introductory press conference, Beasley looked directly into the cameras and stated that marijuana was behind him. It wasn't. Less than a year after making that promise, Scottsdale police pulled him over and found what they believed to be marijuana inside his vehicle. On September 3, 2013, the Suns waived him. The $18 million contract was torn up after a single full season. The team's president of basketball operations offered a measured but firm explanation. "We worked hard to devote ourselves to Michael's success, but we have to maintain the standards required to build a championship culture." And here is where the story takes its most painful turn. Just 8 days after Phoenix released him, on September 11, 2013, Michael Beasley signed with the Miami Heat, the same franchise that had originally drafted him and then traded him away for a pair of second-round picks. Only this time, he wasn't the cornerstone, he wasn't the future. He was a reclamation project on a minimum contract, sitting at the far end of a bench featuring LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh.
Miami reached the NBA Finals for the fourth consecutive season in 2014, and Beasley made his first Finals appearance in Game 5 against the San Antonio Spurs. The Heat lost that game and dropped the series 4-1. From that point forward, Beasley's NBA career became a tour of temporary addresses. He signed a non-guaranteed deal with the Memphis Grizzlies, was waived, and on that same day inked a one-year contract with the Shanghai Sharks of the Chinese Basketball Association. What followed was remarkable in the most bittersweet way imaginable. In 2 full seasons in China, Beasley averaged 28.6 points per game in 2014 to 2015, then elevated that to 31.7 points per game in 2015 to 2016, earning league MVP honors in the process. Sit with that for a moment. The man was averaging 31 points a night and being named the most valuable player in his league, just not in the league that mattered most to him.
The talent never left. The American opportunities did. He continued bouncing across the NBA landscape, returning stints with Minnesota and Phoenix, then comeback attempts with the Heat, the Houston Rockets, the Milwaukee Bucks, the New York Knicks, and eventually the Los Angeles Lakers. 7 franchises across 11 NBA seasons. Every time he stepped onto a court, the scoring came naturally and effortlessly. Staying on that court was the part that consistently proved impossible. In a 2022 interview with HoopsHype, he addressed the frustration directly. "Honestly speaking, I think people don't disrespect but overlook what I've been able to do. If you look at my per 36 numbers across every team, they're all-star caliber." He never averaged fewer than 15 points per 36 minutes across any NBA stop, surpassed 20 points per 36 minutes on 6 separate occasions, and once eclipsed 25. The numbers told a story the headlines rarely bothered to tell. But minutes don't lie either. When coaches stopped trusting him, the playing time evaporated, and without playing time, the career slowly suffocated alongside it. The basketball narrative always swallowed the human one whole. People followed Beasley's statistics, his arrests, his roster changes. Far fewer people paid attention to what was happening to him as a man beneath all of it. Beasley has spoken openly about his father, describing how he eventually uncovered the truth about why that relationship had been so limited throughout his childhood. That discovery created fractures between him and his mother, the one person who had stood beside him through absolutely everything. Every high school transfer, every draft night, every damaging headline. And then, before those fractures could fully heal, came the diagnosis. Fatima Smith had cancer. He had once described her as his everything, and she was. She had attended his games consistently, not simply as a supportive presence in the crowd, but as the one human being who genuinely understood the full weight of what he carried inside. When Beasley was with the Lakers, he stepped away from the team for nearly half the season to be at her side. The Lakers eventually traded him to the Los Angeles Clippers, who waived him within days of acquiring him. He chose his mother over basketball. The league continued moving forward without him. He later described that period with characteristic directness. "I don't like pity. She was being strong. I was trying to be strong." After she passed in December 2018, the isolation that followed reached depths that most people on the outside couldn't begin to measure. Every subsequent comeback attempt arrived draped in familiar controversy: marijuana suspensions, locker room friction, reports of erratic behavior. What rarely made it into those reports was the profound loneliness trailing behind each one, the grief that had no clean outlet, the absence of the one voice that had always known exactly what to say. When Beasley appeared on the Pivot podcast in March 2022, what began as a conversation about basketball drifted steadily towards something far more raw and personal, away from box scores and highlight reels, and down into the quieter, more painful corners of everything he had been carrying alone.